Hey guys, this is Josh Parry, Chief Marketing Officer at CiiRUS, welcoming you back to episode 3 of Fighting Back Together. If you're joining us for the first time, welcome, and if you're joining us for the second or third time, welcome back. We've been absolutely thrilled, at least I have, by the attendance so far at the last few events. We had 136 management companies signed up for last week's episode with Dennis, which is absolutely incredible. I learned a lot from him. I feel like I do every time we have a conversation. So thank you again, Dennis, for joining us last week. This week, we're joined by Dirk Johnson from the Housekeeping Solutions team. We're going to be having a really good conversation about how management companies can leverage their housekeeping, maintenance, and inspection teams as a testament to their brand. We don't often think about how those three things, housekeeping, maintenance, and inspections, contribute to the way guests view your brand, but they do make a huge difference. We also talk about how important it is in the context of today in the midst of a global pandemic and what you can be doing to make sure that those teams are being productive and serving a good purpose and being heard and understood during this time. They have a lot to give and you have a lot to give them. So it's a very useful conversation, a very productive conversation. So I hope you learn as much as I did from it. We're going to pivot to that conversation in just a few moments. But first, I want to let you know just a few updates on what we're doing with the series. Every Friday now, going forward, at 11 o'clock in the morning Eastern Time, we're going to be going live with a new episode of Fighting Back Together. And then earlier in the week, just like this episode, we're going to drop a new version as well with a pre-recorded conversation. We've got so many guests we're inviting onto this show and so many people reaching out to us to join that it's just too many to try and do live. So we're going to do these pre-recorded episodes early in the week. And then every Friday, you'll have the live episodes where you have the option to join live, ask questions, and see the whole unedited conversation before it goes up to the general public. So around midweek, we'll be giving you the registration details to join the live episodes. And then early midweek, we'll be dropping these pre-produced episodes as well, which don't sleep on them. They're going to be just as exciting as you'll see from this conversation. It's a really good educational session with Dirk Johnson. So without further ado, I will throw to that conversation in just a moment, but I have one last very exciting thing to let you all know about. We've been working for a few months now on a new leg of the software. It's called Task Manager. What Task Manager is basically taking our existing housekeeping, maintenance, and inspection tools and just multiplying it rapidly. It's a really cool new feature that bolts onto the existing tool, where basically it allows you to create templates and items within the housekeeping and maintenance jobs. Things like checklist, photo upload requirements, rate individual items based on their condition, and so on. It can be divided into rooms and segments, indoor, outdoor, and so on. It's a really in-depth but simple tool to help you manage housekeeping, maintenance, and inspections in ways that haven't been possible before within our software, and in my opinion, anywhere in the industry. I genuinely feel it's the most advanced housekeeping and maintenance software anywhere, and you guys as CiiRUS customers get direct access to that, no additional cost, part of the platform. We're going to be rolling that out progressively over the next few weeks to make sure that we bring on customers in an orderly fashion, work out any kinks in the beta and things like that. But today is the very first look for anybody. I'm going to give you a little walkthrough of the platform. We won't go in depth into absolutely everything that it does, but I'm going to show you the highlights, including the way that it's set up and how the templates get structured, as well as I'll give you a look at the mobile application that the staff will be using in the field. So I'm, as you can tell, really excited about Task Manager. I hope you will be as well. So stick around till the end of this episode for the walkthrough on Task Manager. But now, without further ado, like I said last time, before I went on for a second, we're going to throw now to the conversation with Dirk Johnson from Housekeeping Solutions team, as well as my colleague from CiiRUS, Brian Hamawi, who's our Vice President of Product. We're going to go there right now. Welcome back, everybody. It's time for our conversation today with a very special guest. We have Dirk Johnson from the Housekeeping Solutions team joining us today. Welcome, Dirk.
Hello, welcome. Thanks for having me. Hello, everybody. Hope everybody is well and enjoying the opportunity to be at home and get to know the four walls in your house even more intimately than you may have in the past, and those that are there with you. So at least that's where I'm at.
As you can see, we're coming to you live from the social distancing studios. From around the world. Well, no, not to make too much light of it. How are you doing, Dirk? How are, I know it's a very very challenging time for everybody, and like you said, we're all making the most of it. But tell us how are things going for you?
You know, as well as can be expected, most of my work is travel related, so I'm home, set up in a home office. My wife isn't working because her school's been closed down, and so I joke that I haven't shared an office in 10 or 12 years, and here I'm sharing an office again. I have to get used to having a partner in that area, so we've been joking about that. Gratefully, our community doesn't have too much of a problem yet, although it's just a matter of time as the virus moves its way around. And I don't go out much. I take the dog for a walk, and because I live in the Pacific Northwest, it's still winter, so it's gray and cloudy, and I herald when the sun comes out, and I run outside and soak it up as much as I can.
I'm
Yeah.
going to
No.
put you on the spot really quick here. So, what kind of things are you guys doing at home to stay clean and, disinfected, let's call it, from this whole virus thing?
So from a clean standpoint, we've got some good products that we use that have been recommended to kill the COVID 2019. Wash our hands a lot. Hand sanitizer, since that is more precious than gold these days. We use that sparingly unless we go to the store or something of that nature. But that's really what we're doing. We don't have much contact with anybody. We do the high fives from 6 to 8 feet apart and things like that. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly is what we're doing from that perspective. Yeah.
Yeah.
awesome. Good
Yeah.
to hear I'm on track.
Yeah. No, it's real simple, right? I'm a simple guy. Let's make this simple. Let's make
Yeah.
this as easy as possible. I don't want it convoluted. I don't want it all those things of that nature. And so, I think we've been, in the past 3 weeks, we've been to the store twice, maybe. I've been once. My wife's been twice, and I think we'll go again in another 7 or 8 days. So we're
we
we're not
become we become preferred partners of Instacart and Amazon. It's incredible
right.
how many deliveries we have now.
Yes.
Uh,
Yeah. And I
yeah,
think that, the way that we talk about this and, grateful to be surrounded by people who tend to be keeping a level head about the situation. And um, I think it blends perfectly with the theme of the conversations that we're having with industry professionals this week and throughout this process is the way that we fight back together and rebound as an industry is not to panic, but to be focused, be calm, introspect on our operations and see what we can do, not just to rise to the occasion of the new world, but to make sure that we're all set up for success, to succeed above and beyond in the new world once this all settles. And it will settle, and we have faith in that. But that's why we have you on today, Dirk, is to talk about what property management companies can be focusing on within their operations, specifically in the context of their housekeeping and boots on the ground operation. Before we dig into the meat of the conversation, I'd love it if you could tell our audience a little bit more about what it is that you do and what you're going to be bringing to us today. Give us a little preview.
Yeah, so I own 5 years ago I started Housekeeping Solutions team, which is an entity that assists companies or individuals to be more effective and efficient in their back of the house operations. I first started in vacation rental management on October 1st of 2001, when I became the assistant director of housekeeping for Deer Valley Lodging in Park City, Utah. And after one day on the job, I would have changed every single housekeeping department that I had managed before then. The principles and techniques were that powerful. And from there, I've just enjoyed the ride, so to speak, to work with various vacation rental companies in different parts of the United States in various locations, and then an opportunity to present and travel and to assist other companies as they've gotten better. And I thought, I'm going to put my shingle out here and do that. And it's been a great ride, a great ride. Playing on the elementary school playground, I would have never said that I would be a vacation rental housekeeper. That was not something I dreamed of or aspire to do, and yet here I am and thriving and just
that's hilarious.
loving it. It is so
Yeah,
cool. I get to meet great people and and talk about some really good things and helping people
Yeah.
succeed. So
that's
Yeah.
amazing. I can't wait to hear more.
Well, no, I mean we joke, but do you think that people in the day-to-day grind sleep on just how important a well-run, well-oiled housekeeping operation is to the business? Because it is such an everyday part of it. It's a given. It's like the unit has to be clean. Of course, housekeeping is happening, but do you see property managers falling into a false sense of security that they take the clean for granted to the point where there's a quality issue? Kind of speak to the mindset around that.
That's actually that is such a good question. And coming from the property management world, that for me was the beginning and the end to my business. If my housekeepers weren't any good at the beginning of the clean, my guests walked in, they were pissed off, and then by the end of it, I was giving compensation, and then my cleaners would go back in. If the clean wasn't a good clean, it was the catalyst to the entire reservation failing, and then eventually my property management company failing. So I don't know, Dirk, how do you guys see it in your world? Because to me, that was the essence of running a property management company.
It totally is. And not because I'm biased, because that's where I'm at. It's because, just as you described, the clean is what the guests or owners are expecting. So in my conversations and in my training, I talk about how the housekeepers are memory makers. I talk about how the housekeepers or the cleaners, the professional cleaners, are really an integral part of the memories that are made in those homes. And so it's not just that this cleaner is showing up to clean the toilet, to take out the trash, to make the bed, and to reset the property. They're doing this because there are people coming to make memories. Whether that be a honeymoon, a multi-generational reunion, or someone's last time going to the beach or to the mountain, or whatever the case may be. And so we talk about having this memory component of why they're cleaning. And then the other piece to that is the cleaners, the professional cleaners, they own the brand of the company. So Brian, if you hired me to be your cleaner, you would have a conversation with me, right? You would have a conversation with me about how you are entrusting Dirk Johnson with your most precious asset, which is your brand. And so now, as I have a standard property appearance, as I have service standards, as I have all these things to help me do my work, you're going to articulate and say, you know what, you're a memory maker and you own my brand. I'm entrusting you with this. So as you clean to the standards that we've agreed to, this is what we're going to accomplish and how we're going to do that. And so it's about framing and putting in perspective what the cleaner's role is, and then reminding them of that. Because if you think of a housekeeper's world, it's a very negative world. Oh, the housekeeper messed up. It's the housekeeper's fault. The housekeeper took it. All these things that go with that. And yet, just as you described, they are so important to the overall feeling that takes place in the property. Because really, the work that a guest sees is all housekeeping and maintenance. It's not reservations, it's not front desk, it's not owner relations. It's all has to do with what the work of the housekeepers and the maintenance tech, all that back of the house staff, and getting that set up that way.
So I think that's a really good point, which is our housekeepers are so important. You should remind them often of how important they are to your company. And they don't just have, they do make memories for your guests. And so it's not just about the bad cleans. It's really about the good cleans. How many good stays have they created? And how do you compensate those cleaners for that? And it could be monetary. It could be, just an accolade. Just recognizing that they are that integral to your business.
Right. So before I answer that question, I want to circle back to the first part of your comment, which is, as a housekeeping manager, 90% of my work is on 1 or 2% of the bad cleans that took place. And so I need to be able to articulate to my staff the positive things that are taking place. And that can be done through software, that can be done through a tick sheet, that can be done through any number of ways to say, hey, this is what's taking place, and provide those accolades and those kudos. And then to your question of how would I compensate them, any number of ways. You know, we could do it through through the guest comment card scores. You know, for every person that receives a 5, they get X amount of a bonus. That could be, or they receive a ticket that goes into a drawing to receive, you know, a 60-inch, or sorry, that's small nowadays, and you know, a 80-inch TV, you know, 4K TV to take home. You know, for every time somebody does that, it could be as simple as I'm a fan of the Golden Plunger Award or the Golden Toilet Brush Award. Again, you go down to your local store, or you go to your supply and get some gold spray paint, and you spray paint the plunger or the toilet brush gold, and then you make that traveling trophy. I've always found it very interesting to, and I've always wanted to do this but never been able to, would be to get an 8-foot bowling trophy or an 8-foot car trophy,
That's
and be
awesome.
able to make that a traveling trophy around. I mean, can you imagine, you know, a 5-foot housekeeper standing next to an 8-foot trophy as you take their picture to put it on your social media and say, here's Esmeralda's, you know, the recipient of the cleaner award this week, and we're so proud of her, and you know, stand next to this trophy. I mean, it is just so many things, and to me, the kookier and the crazier the items are, the better.
Yeah.
Uh, and it took me a little while to buy into that. I had a manager when I was running a reservations department. He said, make it kooky and make it crazy. And I just looked at him cross-eyed, and finally I did it. And the reception I received from my staff was amazing. And so I am all in. Whatever kooky and crazy thing I can do to facilitate and bring this about is what I want to do, for sure.
From the
Awesome.
from the technologist's standpoint too, in addition to building in, I think that the reward system, we see it in all lines of work. We see it in software with our with our onboarding team and our technical specialists. They're rewarded for reaching their benchmarks and pleasing the clients. But in addition to those more tangible rewards, I feel from an outside perspective as a technologist that I see a lot of property management companies take for granted that housekeepers will just use whatever tool or whatever mechanism, whatever report they're given, and well, they'll deal with it. They'll figure it out. They'll they'll make their way around. But how actually can management companies think differently about the technology that they use and the way it impacts the housekeeping staff? How can management companies empower their housekeeping team to be more involved in the software decision process and finding the tools that they need to be most successful?
You know, that's a really good question, because what I found is you're going to have very little of the middle ground, but you're going to have polarized ends. You're going to have those who prefer pencil and paper and don't even talk to me about a phone, right? When I get to the property, I'm going to call you from the property phone and tell you where I'm at, and then I'm going to hang up. And then you have those that are all in. They've got the latest and greatest smartphone, and the next time, you know, it's like they have a new phone every 4 weeks, because they just stay up to date with that. And so to me, there has to be this fine line of reaching out to both sides of that continuum, and saying to the old guard, we'll call it, you know, I need technology. I need to have this visibility. I need to know what's going on, because this is how we do our service orders. This is how I track certain things. You know, you could even tie it to some of the bonus compensation that you're going to receive is tied to this. And then you go to those that have that are so technology driven and just love it, to say, okay, I know you're on this end of the scale. How do we help this other end to come along, and what are we going to do with that to facilitate that? And so, you know, finding that balance. The other thing that I've noticed, and that I'm an advocate for, is the company providing a digital device for people to use. That way I'm not putting at risk somebody else's device. And so I'm a fan of finding an older device, tablet, phone, whatever the case may be, just making it Wi-Fi enabled. And that way, if it ends up in the toilet, or if it ends up in the hot tub, or if it ends up, you know, getting dropped in some other unmentionable bile stuff, you know, and it breaks, it's not a big deal, right? It's $40, whatever the case may be. And so that way you're working with a little older technology, but Wi-Fi enabled, and they just show up at the property, they do their thing, and that way it then minimizes the distractions. I find it, you know, I think of, oh, I need something off my phone, And immediately 5 minutes later, I'm going, wait, I came here to do something else. And I've been distracted by LinkedIn. I've been distracted by some of these other notifications. Oh, wait, I came here to do something. And so by doing that on a company phone, and then I can minimize those distractions. Not that they shouldn't have contact with the outside world, but I can minimize it. And then at the beginning of the day, they would receive that device, and then at the end of the day, that device would be turned back in. And that's also checks and balance to make sure everybody's back in and no one's left out in the field.
You know, the other side of that is that you actually create some separation between business and personal life. And so I think that's really important as well, because we're asking a lot of our cleaners to use their own personal devices. They are constantly at work or getting reminders about work. And sometimes, you know, with what's happening now, it's really important to be able to say, it's time to just take a break from work, spend time with your family and things like that. So yeah, it's a good point. It's not something I've ever thought about.
Because it creates that separation. And two, if I'm using a company device, then I can use the geofencing. I can do all of those things of that nature. And then when it gets, so the individual, again, I'm talking as if they're employees, contractors is a different conversation, but from an employee standpoint, I show up, I'm given my device, I log in, I receive my workload. It's all personalized to me, all those things of that nature. I go and do it's even in my own language. If my primary language is Finnish, and I'm working in Spain, you know, it comes across that way. And then at the end of the day, I'm able to turn it back in, plug it in, and go from there. So
makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So that's how I would look at it. That's how I would look at it.
A few minutes ago.
Go ahead, please. No, go. Oh, wait, go, please.
Oh, thank you. A few seconds ago, I think it was your response a few minutes ago, Brian, you were saying that now more than ever, it's good to encourage people to separate their church from state and, you know, be with family when they need to be. That goes without saying. But pivoting a little bit to current events, Dirk, what's the sentiment coming out of the housekeeping, the vacation rental housekeeping community in regards to feeling comfortable on-site housekeeping, cleaning after guests, and then how do we parlay that into making sure that guests feel comfortable with the work that they've done on site as well? The guests who are allowed to still travel and who are still traveling, how do you reconcile both the housekeepers' potential angst being in a house that's been used by a guest, they don't know where they've been, and then the angst of incoming guests as well, trusting that the housekeeping has been done well?
So to me, there are two responses to that. So the first response to the cleaning professionals would be what personal protective equipment, PPE, is being provided to the cleaners to protect themselves. You know, whether the gloves, and if the cleaner is requesting a mask, is that being made available, and is it the N95 mask that they can wear if they so choose to? Understanding what cleaning products they're using, making sure that they're good, that the products have been tested against the COVID 2019 virus to make sure that they kill that. It's also really good from a property manager standpoint to understand the difference between sanitization and disinfection, knowing that soft surfaces are really tough to disinfect, where hard surfaces you can disinfect. So making sure that the housekeepers or the cleaning professionals receive the training on that particular piece. And then to your guests, you know, making sure that you're telling your story about what training the cleaning professionals have received, what products you're using, you know, taking pictures of you meeting with the local janitorial supply company to receive this information, you know, and then in your pre-arrival communication, communicating to them what's actually taking place and what you're doing to ensure that this home is, or this property is, cleaned as best as we can get it. Now, we're never going to be able to get it sterilized, right? Because that's out of our league. However, we can make sure through a proper cleaning process and through proper cleaning products to make sure that the home or the property is ready for that guest's arrival. Is how I would look at that.
That's awesome. We are going to be providing some guidelines for you guys, and this is general to our property managers, on some of the best cleaning practices. Dirk's going to be helping us do that, but I think if property managers want to go in a little bit deeper, you are available as a resource for those property managers to contact you and talk through that process, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I am. You know, it's these are let's see, the word of 2020, I think for everybody is unprecedented as we start to look at what this year is. And so, you know, there are so many high touch areas that we have to work with and make sure we get clean, and absolutely willing to assist and help. You know, as property management companies start to look at their processes, no longer is it just simply a departure clean. It's more of almost a mini deep clean, if you will, as you look at what your deep clean process is, and taking some of those items and moving that into the departure clean. So now I have to allocate more time. I have to change the payment that I'm paying my cleaners if I'm paying by the property, which I think you should. And then I think there should also be, to offset those costs, the departure cleaning fee needs to increase a little bit because the costs are simply higher. And that's why when we go back to telling our story of articulating, you know, these are the products I'm using, this is the process we're using, this is all these things that go into that. So when the guest receives that extra departure cleaning fee increase, they understand what's going to, why the cost is that way. And I think there'll be more understanding because they have more education of what's taking place and why it is going to be that way.
To help everybody in our audience implement that advice, without good technology in place, it's difficult to be able to communicate fulsomely, especially if you have a large operation, with the housekeeping crew about the products they need to be using, conduct, you know, group awareness drills, and implement the processes that Dirk's going to be helping us roll out. So at the end of this conversation, stick around because we're going to be providing your first look at our new product. It's called CiiRUS Task Manager. It's completely built into the CiiRUS vacation rental software that you already use. So there's no additional fees for that. We're going to be launching it a little bit earlier than we expected, owing to the additional need now with the COVID-19 pandemic to really be encouraging you guys to introspect on the housekeeping, maintenance, and inspections operations. And we feel that we can be a lot more helpful to you guys in optimizing those processes by combining expertise from folks like Dirk and rolling out the resources to you guys with the new technology. So once we're done with the conversation here, definitely stick around because we'll be giving a little 5-minute sneak peek of CiiRUS Task Manager. And then in a follow-up episode, we'll be devoting entirely to a walkthrough and training in the Task Manager software. So we're really excited about that.
That's great news. Glad to hear it. I get to be a part of that conversation. I'm excited. Thank you. This is cool.
Yeah,
you know, to
absolutely.
have an integrated piece is very important to make it all seamlessly flow back and forth and to make it all a one-stop shop. So that's awesome. Congratulations. That's neat.
Thank you.
That is neat.
Much appreciated.
Yeah, you're welcome. So Brian, a question to you then. As you look at your property management experience and looking at your back of the house staff that you were challenged to find and to work with, what were some of the things you found that really helped you build unity in that department?
Honestly, Dirk, I got really lucky. I had 2 teams of cleaners. They lasted the entire lifeline of my company.
Wow.
Yeah, and I actually empowered them tremendously. So the first company came from I learned a lot of tricks of the trade from my mother-in-law and my father-in-law. They used to own a pretty big property management company in town, and they taught me a lot of tricks of the trade. So I ended up inheriting or rehiring what used to be their head of housekeeping, and she just had some incredible processes in place. And I think that was essential, was having somebody that had so much knowledge about the cleaning process. I then ended up hiring the second crew, and that crew ended up inheriting a lot of the tips and trades from the original company. And so they ended up, we started with one house, and then over time we grew to over about 75 units. And they were subcontracted, so they were an external company. And my theory behind it was that I wanted them to grow with me. So as my business grew, I also empowered them to grow. And I gave them all the tools that I could to help them grow. Now, they never ended up working for anybody else other than us, just because they had so much business. But we were incredibly loyal to those guys. Anything that they asked for, it usually wasn't a problem. Housekeeping for me was essential. So
Yeah.
I knew that in order for us to have happy guests, get those 5-star ratings, I had to invest in my housekeepers training, and then invest in our homes as well. So our homeowners also, as we started to onboard them, had a pretty deep understanding that we took that very seriously. Put some pretty strict guidelines in, and when we required doing things like deep cleans or spring cleans, we had to do them, and it wasn't a question. And so our housekeepers had not an easier job, but a more reliable job, less errors. They knew the houses inside and out. We used internal technology because we didn't have things like tasks at the time that could help us with a lot of this stuff. We used spreadsheets. But we grew as a family. We treated them as a family. We made them a lot of money, and they still operate today. So I'm excited. I mean, housekeepers are, it's a really cool industry to learn. You can take a lot of the practices in the housekeeping industry and apply it to different aspects of life, and aspects of business.
For sure.
So,
What kind of training did you provide to them? How did you help them stay abreast of the changing environment that is in the hospitality cleaning world?
you know, we had access to a lot of hotel people, so housekeeping people, a lot of concierge. And so we did online training. I used to pull resources from the hotel industry and show them different ways to do it. They were pretty proactive themselves. They would look at different cleaning products, commercial products. So they were pretty proactive in the way they approached cleaning as well. They took it very seriously. So I think that also made a difference for me. I learned from them and they learned from me. But we also didn't have, a lot of resources like you guys. So I think in this day and age, property management has changed. The access to resources has changed, which is kind of part of this initiative as well. We feel that property managers have so much access to so many different things. It's just all over the place. And what we're trying to do with some of these webinars and with some of the resource pages that we're going to be launching is to actually be able to consolidate a lot of that information and be able to serve it up to property managers in one simple place. And that's why it's so important to have people like you on board, that we can consistently be messaging to those guys, giving them new resources, new information all the time, and bring the standards up. Honestly, it's all about the standard of the units. If we can elevate those standards, there's no reason why we can't succeed and make our customers, our guests feel comfortable coming into vacation rental.
I totally agree, because you look at the everybody's shelter in place, or any other word you want to use if in there. We have for those that aren't cleaning, they have access to all this information. I'm not saying that they should be looking at how to clean all every time they're at home, but to set aside a few moments, whatever that time frame is, for someone to become their best self. I look at, whether that's learning how to do underwater basket weaving, how to roll sushi, or how to do origami, or how to, read a financial statement. There's the ability to sit in one's home and to receive education, and then take that education and turn it into knowledge and practical experience. Can you imagine going through this even 10 years ago, even 5 years ago? No, I mean, the ability I'm so grateful that the internet has become what it is, for us to have this meeting and to have this conversation. And then for those that want to become something more, to become their best self, to have access to good books, to good how-to videos, to the web page that, the resource page that you're creating. We live in a wonderful day and time, not only from a medicinal side, where they can track this and help us alleviate it and address it, from the pandemic standpoint, but then also for those of us that are home, to still be able to be productive and to learn, and not just become this huge couch potato, so to speak.
I think that's so key right now. It's such a good point. I think when I had my property management company, it was the beginning days of things like Airbnb. I think we were one of the first property managers on Airbnb for the Florida market, and we just didn't have access to the resources that we have now.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that we would have taken it this easy. I think a lot of people are going to succeed because of access to technology and resources. It's going to help us a lot come out of a very difficult situation into hopefully a more successful situation.
Yeah.
Right. Can you imagine, someone going down, in the U.S., the U.S. government has stepped up to do certain things, and I'm sure other people are doing the same thing, other countries. Can you imagine the line of business owners trying to be 6 feet apart, trying to go into a bank or something to fill out paperwork and to get something done what those lines would look at nowadays?
Yeah.
I mean, that would just be atrocious. The fact that we can sit down and do it digitally, it is so great, so
powerful.
Yes,
I think that for the vacation rental managers, the ability to embrace the attitudes and the technologies that we're talking about today, I really think that's what's going to put our industry ahead of other segments of the hospitality industry coming out of this when it comes to guest attitudes. I think that there is going to be a global paradigm shift towards being a little bit more health conscious, a little bit more sanitization conscious. Vacation rentals as just as a natural fact provide a lot more protection from the elements and from crowds and from large gatherings of
right.
people than other methods of accommodation. I'm not trying to disparage the hotel market, but certainly being in a vacation rental home with the people that you already have herd immunity with among your family and not needing to interact needlessly in close proximity to other people in the same ways you would maybe on a cruise or in a hotel. A lot of people are going to find look at vacation rentals in a new light coming out of this.
Yeah, I totally agree. And so from a property manager standpoint, at this time when things are slow, and I recognize you've still got your business, you got to keep viable and all these other things, guard your cash because cash is king, all those things that go with that, to take advantage of what you just described would be, as a vacation rental manager, I would be looking to look at my standard property appearance, because that's the document that articulates my brand standard to my cleaners. How do I want my property to look when they depart? So I'd want to review that, make sure that is up to standard based on what's taking place. I would want to review my cleaner, my actual cleaning products. We're going through this COVID 2019, and everybody's trying to find the right products to do that, and many of those are on short supply. But at the same time, now is a good time to reevaluate all my products, because the products I used even 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, I may want to throw that line of product out and get a new line, or take bits and pieces from the old and make it new. And so having a relationship with a local janitorial supply company to understand, Brian, to your point, about cleaners understanding what the up and coming products are and how all those works. Yeah, your janitorial supply company individual can provide that to you to test and to evaluate and to look at those things, and then you start looking at another document that I believe every property management company should have is the service standards. What's the difference between a departure clean, a mini deep clean, and a deep clean? Earlier in the conversation, we talked about taking some of those items of a deep clean and moving them to the departure clean. So I need to relook at my how-to guide, so to speak, of what the departure clean is now going to look like. And then to the marketing side, how am I going to articulate and present all of this work that I'm doing to ensure that the guests and owners coming to stay have a sanitized and disinfected property to stay at. So I need to look at my marketing material. This is the time to plan for when it's going to come back. It's not a question of if, it's a question of when. And so I recognize that there will be a group of people once this is done who are sick and tired of being in their home, who are going to run as far away from their house for whatever time frame they can, just to have that breath of, I'm not in my house anymore. But then, how am I going to take and turn that into an opportunity to then market and to be focused on the guests and the owners, and helping them know that I'm doing the best, from a guest standpoint, that everything is being cleaned appropriately, and this is how I do that, how I present that to them. And then to the owner standpoint, I'm taking care of your asset, Mr. and Mrs. Owner, this is how we're cleaning and doing all those things. And by the way, Mr. and Mrs. Owner, that 30-year-old bedspread, it's time to go to sheet duvets, and it's really time for you to become part of the linen program so we can really have a good, disinfected sheets on the bed and do all these
Great
things.
example.
Because I think that's going to be part of our next evolution is now how am I going to articulate this and present this to those individuals. And now's the time to plan for that. Everybody's market is just a little bit different, which is what I love about who we are. And what we do is we all have general principles, and how we apply those principles vary from company to company and from market to market.
I couldn't agree more with you. It's fantastic advice.
Yeah, absolutely. And Dirk, thank you so much. And as we move towards wrapping up here, let's put you in the hot seat for a little lightning round. If I'm
I'll take a deep breath. Wait, okay, I'm ready.
Yeah.
Right?
So if I'm a property manager in the audience who I feel pretty confident I do a good job with my housekeeping operation, but I know it's a little bit basic and there's more I could do. Name just 3 quick key things that point out in the BRMs who do excel in this environment from your standpoint. Name just 2 or 3 major difference-making things BRMs can start doing today to excel in this area, not just specifically in the COVID-19 paradigm, but moving beyond that.
So here's what jumps to mind immediately. Number 1, standard property appearance. Have an up-to-date standard property appearance. Again, that document articulates your brand to the cleaners and to the inspectors and to the reservation agents and to the owner relations agents. This is one of your key documents in your company. Make sure it's up to date. Make sure it's spot on with pictures, with the words next to the picture of what it should look like, all of those things that go with that. Second one would be your service standards, which we talked about, being able to understand what a departure clean now is, because what it was 3 weeks ago is not what it's going to be in 3 weeks or 6 weeks when the guests come back. So making sure that you have that. We've talked about proper cleaning products and proper cleaning tools is where I would go, and making sure I have if I don't have one, create a great relationship with my local janitorial supply company, because I can buy things from them at wholesale rates and all those things of that nature. And then the 4th item I would take a lead from Brian is the cleaners, the cleaning professionals, they are smart, they know what they're doing, and let's include them as family into some of the decisions that we're making. It doesn't mean I have to take what they say, but I can certainly ask their opinion as what I'm going forward. And then, I would do a golden toilet brush and a golden plunger. Let's have some fun with this. It doesn't have to be as heavy and drudgery. I got to go clean the toilet. No, let's go have some fun. Let's have some fun.
That's awesome.
Excellent.
What excites me is that property managers have the opportunity right now to make their properties spick and span and get those 5-star reviews as soon as these guests come in. Yeah. There's absolutely no reason these units shouldn't all be 100% up to standard, given the amount of time that we have at home and the time that they can spend in these homes.
Right, and you start to look at that. So now you look to again, my information is biased to the U.S. because that's what I'm most familiar with. But I'm assuming, at least I'm crossing my fingers and hoping so, that other government entities are willing to step up and assist other property management companies. And so if they're able to tie in getting some of these deep cleans and some of these other things like you described, and use this money coming from the outside to help compensate the cleaners to come in and do this, I mean, that would just be, you're right. Let's get in, let's do a super thorough deep clean, let's get this done, let's do some maintenance work, let's do all these things, assuming that the owners are willing and able to facilitate that from a cash standpoint. But I could not agree more. Could not. Let's get our cleaners working a little bit. They work alone in a property anyway. I mean, the physical distancing is all over that. So here we go.
Yeah.
Well, to help our property management companies on the platform begin making their first steps along Dirk's advice, coming up next is our first ever demonstration of the CiiRUS Task Manager software that's launching now. Stick around for that. But before we move on, I'd just like to give a full tremendous thank you to Dirk Johnson from Housekeeping Solutions team for being a resource for our property management companies today. Dirk, thank you, and feel free to let our audience know how they can get in touch with you and where they can learn more about what you're up to.
Yeah, so the best place to go is housekeepingst.com is my website, and then I'm prolific on LinkedIn. That's where a lot of videos are there, articles, tidbits, things of that nature. So DURK Johnson is how you find me. We certainly can connect there. And then you can drop me an email if you'd like, and that's Dirk, DURK, at housekeepingst.com.
And all his details will be included in the resources page we'll be sending you guys, as well as below the webinar. So, Dirk, this was an awesome conversation. I think we'll be having a few more of these in the upcoming weeks. So I look forward to some follow-up on these topics.
Thank you. I've enjoyed it. It's been fun to be with you all in our virtual, physically distancing studio. It's become the norm.
Social Distancing Studios Incorporated. All right. On that note, guys, thank you very much for the conversation today. Thanking you and signing off. Hey guys, it's Josh here again, and it's finally time for the long-awaited first look at the new CiiRUS Task Manager feature that we're getting ready to launch here in a few weeks, and we're really excited to show you finally what we've been working on. We accelerated the launch of this a little bit in response to the current events, and we think this is going to be a really cool feature for you guys and something to work on while things are a little bit quieter on the reservations front. So once we get done with the demo, I'll talk a little bit more about when we expect to be releasing it and what that process is going to look like. But for the time being, I'm really excited to get to share the first look with you guys. So just to give you a heads up, here on the left, I'm using Syrus 1, which is the web browser version of CiiRUS. Those of you who haven't used Syrus 1 before, you'll be familiar with the fact that Syrus is traditionally accessed through a Windows app. Now you can access everything that you use in Syrus in this web browser version. It works pretty much exactly the same way as the desktop version, but you access it through a web browser. So you can go to portal.cyrus.com and you can sign in with your company's username and your individual staff password and log in as usual. I won't do a full rundown of Syrus 1 because we did do a webinar a few weeks ago where we walked you through it for the first time. We'll share that webinar link with you when we drop this episode so that you can go back in time and take a look at how Syrus 1 functions. But we are using Syrus 1 here on the left. And on the right, this cell phone-sized screen is the Task Manager app itself that your cleaners, maintenance people, and inspectors will be using to log in and view their jobs. Let me tell you a bit about the philosophy behind Task Manager. This is going to be a replacement for the existing Service Logon feature that we have in Syrus. Service Logon has been a great feature for many years, but it's got some issues that we've worked out with this new version. It's much newer, more modern, more clean, and includes a ton of new features. It also extends into maintenance and inspections, which Service Logon didn't do a great job of doing. It's a very it's a very housekeeping forward feature was Service Logon. This takes that to a next level. In my opinion, it is the most revolutionary piece of software for housekeeping, maintenance, and inspections in the industry today. And I hope you'll agree with me once we give you the first look here. The way that Task Manager works is that you'll set up task templates in the software. For example, you can have task templates that apply to housekeeping, to inspections, to work orders, and advanced work orders. So any type of field-based operation in the CiiRUS platform, these 4 different types, can have templates built for them. And once you've built a template for a certain task, it can then be applied to a property or to a clean or to a work order automatically or manually. For example, we'll use the clean as an example because it's the easiest way to explain what we're doing. If I take, for example, a clean and I have, for example, a 6-bedroom standard clean, I can build a template of instructions that a cleaner will use to accomplish a 6-bedroom standard clean, and then I can set a rule that says, all right, for every 6-bedroom home, it's going to use this cleaning template. That way the software will automatically book the clean and apply this specific set of instructions to that clean, so you don't have to go in there and create a new clean template every time a cleaner is dispatched in a 6-bedroom home. Let's take a look at how these templates work. I'm going to open one up here and go View and Edit Template. Inside the template, you'll see it's broken down into a series of different sections. These sections can represent rooms, they can represent different areas. In my case, I've broken them out into individual rooms. So if I open up the kitchen section, for example, you'll see that I have 3 requirements that I have for my cleaner. They have to fulfill these requirements in order to move on and complete the task. So in the kitchen, I'm asking them to please rate the condition of the kitchen. I'm asking them to state yes or no, is the kitchen guest ready? And step 3 is a checklist. The first item is to ensure the fridge is clean and wiped down. The second item is to set the freezer to 7 and refrigerator to 6. These are 3 good examples of different requests that you can add. We call them question requirements. You can add as many question requirements to a room as you need to. So I'm going to add an additional request to the kitchen. So I click Add. It's going to give me several different requirement types. We can add a checklist, we can require a photo upload, you can ask them to provide a count, we can ask them to enter text, we can ask them to answer a yes or no question, rate something, or give a condition report on something. So in this case, let's do a rating. So we'll say, once finished, rate the care the guests took of the kitchen. This can be anything, that's just a random question. With any requirement that we add to a room, you can specify whether or not you would like the cleaner or the maintenance person to include a picture when they answer this question. You can also upload a reference picture. So if you're asking, for example, arrange the towels on the bed in a certain way, and that's going to be one of the steps in here, you can leave a picture of how those towels need to be arranged by uploading a reference photo here, and you can check this box to require that the cleaner or maintenance person also upload a photo once they've completed that step. So that's how we add a new requirement onto a room. What's really cool about this too is that you can add requirements specifically to an item within that room. So within the kitchen here, I can go, I want to add an item, and I'm going to say in the kitchen, of course, we have a microwave. So I have now added a microwave to the kitchen. So you'll see here within my kitchen, I have steps that apply to the kitchen as a whole. And now I have steps that I can add that apply specifically to the microwave. So I can now come in here and say, I want a photo. And describe the required photo is going to be, add a photo of the inside of the microwave once cleaned. And we'll save that. And now what that's going to mean is that the housekeeper has to actually add a photo of the microwave before it will allow them to move on and mark it as cleaned. You can add as many different items within each room and add as many different requirements to each item and each room as you like to build out a really robust cleaning template of instructions for the staff. And my cat here agrees with me. Let me move him. Sorry, guys. Working from home, right? So that's just a quick look at how we build out the templates in the system. And once a template's made, whether that's a template for a clean, a template for a maintenance, or a template for an inspection, like I said earlier, you can assign that template to a home. You can assign it to as many homes as you like, or you can go into the cleaning schedule and reapply a different template to each of those cleans or work orders, however you like. So now let's take a look at this from the actual perspective of the staff themselves. This window here, you'll see it's kind of in the shape of a cell phone. Let's just pretend I'm using this on my phone, which they will be. They'll be logging into tasks.CiiRUS.com with a username and password that you'll give them when you set them up. I, as a cleaner now, can come in here and see each of the individual cleans that are assigned to me. So I see a picture of the home, I see the name of the home, and the date of the job. You'll see it tells me here where it has housekeeping. That's telling me it's a clean. It may also say maintenance, or it may also say inspection, depending on the type of job that I have in my schedule. The staff person is able to filter what kind of jobs they would like to see. So I have mine set to housekeeping, but you could change it to show everything. You could change it to show just maintenance and so on. We can also have it to filter out and show me just the back-to-back cleans. On the schedule, any back-to-back cleans will have a little back-to-back icon. None of the cleans in my schedule right now are back-to-back, but in the event that they are, they'll have this little back-to-back icon that you see here in the other section. I can specify a date range, so I can see exactly the cleans that I want to see within the date range, and hit apply, and that changes what I see in my view. So now as a cleaner, I can go in and say, all right, so I have an in-progress clean here at Daytona with a view. I'm going to tap on that. When I do so, it's going to bring me into the specific record for this clean. So I'm able to see it face value. Before I go into the tasks, I can see, for example, the property details. This shows me where the home is. It gives me the lock code, the alarm code, and so on. And then I can jump straight into my individual tasks. So I can see that overall, I have 11 tasks to complete. I finished 6 of them. Now it breaks down into the individual rooms that correspond with the job that we built in CiiRUS. So if I go ahead and look at, say, the bathroom, we have a series of questions in the bathroom. So I've been asked to rate the condition of the bathroom out of 5, and I can do that here. I've been asked to specify if the bathroom is guest ready, yes or no. And I've also been asked to enter a count of how many toilet paper rolls are left in the bathroom. So I'm going to say we have 6 toilet paper rolls and save that. That goes from orange to green. So this green dot here tells me I've finished this task. And now when I go back, the bathroom has been moved to 3 out of 3. So I can go to the living room and do the same thing. It says, please vacuum the floor and dust the surfaces. This is here in yellow. I can mark that as complete. I can also click the photo icon here to upload a photo of the room. If a photo is required, it won't let me mark this as complete until I've added that photo. Likewise, I can also add notes or raise an issue. Raising issues is a new thing within Task Manager. So when you raise an issue, for example, if a cleaner says, well, I went to clean the guest room, but I noticed that the vase was broken, they're going to raise an issue from within the app, and you'll be able to go into the reported issues screen here in CiiRUS 1, and you'll see a list of all of the reported issues that the staff have left, and convert those into work orders if you so please. A few other cool things about the Task Manager app. This is a very brief overview. There's a lot more that it does, but at face value, there's a couple of cool things in here. It is multilingual, so you can change between English, Spanish, and Portuguese. It also has an offline mode. So if your cleaners are working in a remote area, perhaps that doesn't have good Wi-Fi signal or good 4G signal, it does work offline. It caches the information as they make updates, and then next time they get a connection, it pushes that information to the internet. So they don't need a connection in order to use the app. If they lose their connection midstream, it's okay. It remembers what they're doing, and it publishes it to the cloud once they've finished. So there is a whole heck of a lot more inside Task Manager. We're going to be doing some official training videos and releasing some cool step-by-step information about Task Manager. But this has been your first look. We expect within the next couple of weeks to be rolling out a dedicated onboarding program for Task Manager and a waiting list to get signed up. We're not just going to release this to the wild and risk confusing people. We want this to be an organized process. So I fully expect that many of you are going to see this and start asking about how soon you can get signed up. Feel free to email. We can put you at the top of the list if you urgently need to get enrolled, or if you have any questions, you're welcome to ask us those questions and we'll get back to you with as many details as we can. But we hope that this is something that's exciting to you guys. It's been a long time coming and we're very proud of what we've done. So like I said, this was just a brief first look. We'll be giving a much more detailed look in the next couple of days and weeks as we unroll the program out. But send us your questions, and this has been episode number 3 now of Fighting Back Together. We hope you'll join us on Friday at 11 a.m. for the next live session, and you should be receiving an email about registration details for that here shortly. So until next time, a big thank you for joining us. Come back and join the next episode. We'd love to have you. Thank you guys. Signing off for now.